House Republicans have altered a piece of Trump's mega bill with a plan to overhaul SNAP food aid benefits. And this would be one of the biggest overhauls to the food aid program in decades. The plan to overhaul SNAP, which of course is a supplemental nutrition assistance program, includes three things: limiting future increases to benefits, implementing new work requirements, and pushing the costs to the states. Because in this government, in Republicans' minds, small government means almost no government. Just push it all to the states. So, like, what is even left for the federal government? So these changes put millions of low-income Americans at risk of being removed from the program. SNAP currently helps to feed 40 million low-income Americans. 80% are in households with a child under 18, an adult age 60 or over, or an individual who is disabled. So Republicans are looking for ways to cut back on SNAP. Here is this from Politico. Agriculture Republicans will increase the age of recipients who need to complete work requirements to receive food aid, reaching so-called able-bodied adults with children aged 7 and older for the first time. That move alone is expected to save at least $40 billion, according to projections from the Congressional Budget Office. So I want to switch back and talk a little bit more about pushing all of these costs to the states. In March, Senator Mike Lee of Utah introduced a proposal, SNAP Reform and Upward Mobility Act. That's his, and this is what it says. So Lee wants to overhaul the nation's largest federal food assistance program by requiring states to pay a bigger share, starting with 5% more a year until states take on 50% of the costs. That would shift billions of dollars in food stamp costs to states and likely lead to slashed benefits. And here's the best part: Lee's own state would be hit particularly hard, and that state is Utah. In Utah, $383 million in total SNAP benefits were issued in 2024, according to the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. In 2026, if the state were to be required to pay 5% of the cost, it would cost the state about $19 million. At 10%, Utah's share would be roughly $38 million. 25% would be $95 million. And at 50%, Utah would need to pay an estimated $190 million. Waz, this is, it's very sad because these people obviously don't care about the people who are going to be most directly affected by this. But as far as pushing these costs from the federal government to the state governments, I don't really understand why a lot of these senators who are in charge of these, specifically in red states where you do have a lot of people who are on these programs, I don't know how they think that this is going to benefit their state. I think like they must just be banking on the fact that a lot of people aren't going to link these changes directly to them because, like, of course they want to get reelected come reelection time, don't they? But overall, too, I think whenever you start taking things from the federal government and giving them to the states, Republicans think that there's this idea, like there's better representation there, there's more cohesiveness in the states, there's more cultural assimilation within the states, right? So people, if you're voting on the state basis, that feels more like home. Whereas if something comes from the federal government, that guarantees it anywhere you are in the country, right? I should be able to move from state to state with, my general needs still being met the way that they're supposed to be guaranteed by the country, not just by the state that I'm living in. At this point, it may as well be like the European Union.
It's obvious the whole point of this idea that they're going to shift the costs, meaning we're just going to end up sending half the money we send now. It's just a 50% cut in the benefit. That's it. That's all they're doing. They know that politically, these are some of the most disenfranchised people in the country. So it's not like they're organized to have a voice against this type of thing. And also, to be quite frank, the Republican Party specifically for going on like 50 years now has done everything that it could to demonize what they like to call the welfare state or quote unquote entitlements. And, basically they guilt people into thinking that you should be ashamed that because you have a low paying job that you receive assistance from the government. It's quite insane, honestly, just the policy, but I mean, it's crazy to me if you just take it in totality with this ridiculous budget and tax cut they're trying to pass, where it's like, let's increase the military spending to over $1 trillion, the military spending over $1 trillion. So let's, fatten the bank books of Raytheon and all these other defense contractors. Let's take massive cuts to Medicaid. Again, health insurance for people of low income people. Let's also make sure we give a tax cut to the Americans who are already doing the best. This is just the truth. They don't need tax cuts. They're already doing great. Their freaking stock portfolios are through the roof. They own multiple homes. Their families go on 5 vacations a year. They're already doing awesome. Their kids go to the best schools. So let's make sure they get even more. And the message being sent is, if you're on Snap, somehow you're a drain and you're a leech on the government and the greatness we're trying to achieve. It's the most harebrained, deranged messaging to send to a voting group. But again, it would take an opposition who aren't just an opposition just to be an opposition, but who could articulate an alternative vision and program, an affirmative vision and program that isn't just Republicans bad, to expose the ridiculousness of this entire, policy agenda.
Yeah. I mean, the tax cuts that you referred to, I mean, they have to get paid for in one way or another, whether this is a direct way that they're doing that. I mean, the things that they're proposing are very, very unsettling. Like they're going to sell off public land to pay for, like you can't just come by trillions of dollars worth of tax cuts without cutting something else elsewhere. Think the books still have to be balanced. And I think a lot of people who still support these tax cuts that are coming for the rich, I don't know if they just don't understand that or they don't care because it's not going to affect them or whatever, but it's going to change the landscape of this country in a lot of very real way, physically the landscape of the country. Also for Republicans, I feel like maybe all of these culture wars sort of protect their voting base, right? You can't vote in this country. We have two parties, right, in the country. So if you vote for, I'm against abortion, then you're also voting and saying, you know what, I'm okay with you cutting SNAP benefits. So they are insulated in quite a bit, in quite a few ways, with just our two-party system and just the nature of it. So it is very sad. We'll see how this all plays out in a little bit. So, I mean, if this ever comes to pass. So, with that, before we go, in the last story, I did reference a congressperson. I couldn't remember who it was. It was James Clyburn, who said that, him being asked to step away from his seat, it would be like him choosing death for himself, which is very dramatic, I thought.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.